Of course, I'd recommend being in shape. Obviously, that would help. But when I did it, I wasn't in amazing shape. I'd lived in Kunming for about a year and a half, and I basically just started at the base of Tibet, pretty much in Shangri-La. So you'll end up having to push a lot when you're going uphill, especially the roads were bumpy and stuff. It's just with all the heavy equipment, if you have like four panniers, it's going to be really difficult. So expect things to take a lot longer. But I was able to manage okay. But yeah, I mean, there's other stuff too. I mean, I remember having huge headwinds. I mean, I remember getting to the top, and I'm going downhill, and it's like, oh, I'm finally going downhill, and it's like I had to pedal so hard going downhill because the headwinds were so strong. You're out in a huge open area. There's no trees, so you could get stuff like that. So it could really slow you down. In general, the rain and stuff wasn't too much of an issue in September. Like I mentioned, it was I didn't have too much of an issue there, but yeah, those are all things that could slow you down.
Terrifying pass here before Tingri. I think it's one of the highest passes I've been to, about 5,100 meters. The last 20-some kilometers took me about 5 hours because I had about 30 to 40 or even more kilometers of headwind. So, but I guess from here I get my first glimpse of Everest. Just a little bit chilly, as you could possibly imagine. All I want to do is get to Nepal, and there's always something, whether it's headwinds and dust in my face, or it's a shitty road, or kids throwing rocks or begging. It's really getting tiring. I can't wait to get to Nepal. Only about a couple more days. Some of the scenery is okay, but it's most of what I've already seen. It doesn't, actually probably 2 or 3 doesn't. Pretty barren mountains, tundra area, and this wind is just constant in western Tibet, so definitely ready to get out of here.
Make sure you do have a lot of tools and stuff. Those roads, like I said, they're probably good now, but in general, when you're on a bumpy or this cobblestone road that I was on, you could, like, let's say you could bike 3,000 kilometers and have no bike issues or even a flat on a nice tarmac in 100 kilometers of crappy road. Like, your bike, everything gets loose, spokes could break, your tire, obviously could break, stuff like that. So make sure you have all the tools and stuff you'd need. Have an extra tire with you, at least 1 or 2, of course, a couple tubes and a repair kit, spokes, stuff to take off your cam. I don't think I had that at the time. Luckily, one of the Spanish guys did. I didn't realize how hard that was to take off the cassette in the back, to change spokes and stuff like that. Because there's really not, you'll see around the world, when you get to mountainous areas, like, people don't ride bikes, so it's not like you're going to go and see a bunch of bike shops in town in general, except for maybe the biggest cities. So you're out on your own, those bumpy roads, like this cobblestone thing, the rocks are really sharp and stuff. It's not like just cobblestone. They're like these spiky rocks. Like, couldn't be worse. And yeah, that could destroy your sidewall, and that'll destroy your whole tire. You can't even fix that. So for the most part, you might be able to fix it, but so that's why you need an extra tire and have the extra spokes and things, and even it's probably good to have some cables and stuff too. So as far as food goes, it's really not much of an issue. I know some cyclists like to cook along the way and stuff like that. I'd done a lot of like long distance backpacking and stuff before I did cycling, and I personally don't like to, pull out all this equipment to start cooking and stuff and clean up at the end of the day. There's restaurants that are cheap and usually all around. So you could usually hit up a restaurant almost every day. I bring, some extra food just in case, always some like bread and different things. But I don't think you have to like have a stove or anything. Tibetan food in general is a little bit more basic than Chinese food. So, even on my last trip, I was out in Western Sichuan, Tibetan area for 13 days. And I could tell even right away, a couple of guys are like, Tibetan food's okay, but we'd rather try some other stuff. So, because you're up on this Tibetan plateau, which, the food is a reflection of the climate and the environment. And so obviously you can't grow tons of things up there like southern China or something like that, or like India, tropical area. So, it's like, your dumplings, noodle soup, meat, kind of basic things like that. It's still good. I do like it a lot, but you'll want to change it up. So the good thing is there's tons of Chinese restaurants around. As far as the people go, like anywhere else, people are fine. In general, around the world, I haven't had any issues on any of my trips. But some of these areas are kind of touristy, right? Like for instance, Mount Everest, right? Tons of people want to go there, and you have to do these you have to pay tour companies. So it's not like your poor backpacker shows up there, right? It's more of people with money who can, spend money on an SUV tour that's, a couple $1,000s or whatever. So the bad thing about that is that a lot of these SUV tour people, these foreign people from wherever, Europe or America or wherever, are stopping and giving kids like money, pens, and candy and all this stuff. And it seems nice, but I mean, then I come along and I'm not doing that. Like I'm not carrying all this extra stuff to hand out to everyone. There's other ways you could like do aid or help people in the long run, but just like stopping and do that's horrible for us cyclists, because then, these kids see us and then they're like, why aren't you giving me anything? And then they're angry about it, and you can see the look and stuff. So the kids were pretty rowdy. They would even, I remember, kids taking like the cookies out of my pannier and like running away, trying to grab anything. So make sure your stuff's, like closed, because they were trying to grab stuff out of the bag. And yeah, at Mount Everest was the worst. I remember saying Tashi Delay to a group of Tibetans, and they said Tashi Delay, and they spit towards me there, and I mean, I can't even imagine anywhere in the world, and because, you have this kind of mystical image of Tibet and, nice spiritual Buddhist people, and here they are, like, grabbing things and spitting on me. I remember one time, a kid threw a rock at me, and I just got off my bike, went over and knocked his hat off. He was crying or something, but yeah, I mean, kids shouldn't throw rocks at adults and do these kinds of things, right? And they would never do it to their own local people, so I don't take, like, it happened to me in Pakistan and maybe a little bit in Jordan or a couple other countries, but I don't tolerate that stuff. So anyway, overall it's fine. And, I've been to that eastern part now in Sichuan a million times. I've never had an issue there, which is one of the reasons why I like doing the Sichuan part of Tibet or Qinghai or other areas, because they don't have the tourism and it didn't get ruined by these SUV tours and stuff like that. The monks and stuff in some of the temples, and I can understand from their point of view. You go in, we're taking photos of them debating and doing different things, and they see people all day. Like, it's like you're at the zoo. Like, I wouldn't want, like, to be debating or doing something, and all these Chinese tourists came up and took photos of me. So overall they were okay. I do remember going into like maybe one monastery, and they're kind of seeming angry, or no, like you can't go in, this kind of stuff. As far as Lhasa goes, of course, Potala Palace is the main highlight. You can only see certain sections of that now, and I think for a limited time. A couple of the other things might be restricted. I think my favorite was the Ganden Monastery, not because of the monastery, but you could walk up the hill for I don't know, a half hour, an hour, and get a view from up on the top. That's really nice. And so that was great for some pictures. And I went to a couple other monasteries where you could see the monks debating and different things. Yeah, also about Tibetan people, the personal space and stuff is different. Chinese people have other things, like they don't have lines and stuff. So you have some of the same things in China as like the Han Chinese or China and Tibet. But the idea of personal space is even weirder. Like if I go like to negotiate about getting a taxi, about getting a ride with my bikes or something, and the guys surround me like 20 people as close as they could possibly get to me, and I'm like, no, dude. Like, so they're a little bit more likely to stare, or maybe in your personal space a little bit more, even than most people in China. I mean, both can be bad, but there it seems maybe a little bit kind of more off. So that for some people could be a little bit annoying. I know for that one couple I just met, I think that was a little difficult for them after a while, people coming up or staring. So just expect that, the idea of privacy and stuff is going to be different. And the noise, tons of beeping in these small towns. You're in a beautiful area, and they're just I hear in my apartment people beeping. It drives me crazy. But yeah, it's just this, man, you know, you're in the most beautiful place. It's like, do you seriously have, like, this isn't Manhattan. Like, where do you seriously have to go? This town's a kilometer big, and you're just beeping and making all this noise. So that's a really big problem in China in general, and in Tibet, it's like that, and it's a huge shame because it's just really, you know, a lot of the reasons why I want to camp is I don't want to be in a hotel because people are up super early in the morning screaming to each other and just no idea of like privacy or the idea of like, oh, is someone sleeping or this and that. Like they just don't really have the idea of like, oh, someone might be sleeping, or maybe I shouldn't hold my horn in a lorry or, you know, an 18-wheeler going through town, you know, at 2 in the morning. They just don't really get that. So that's another pretty obnoxious thing that seemed pretty particular to me in China and Vietnam, and I don't even remember being that bad in India or Africa or Middle East, anywhere else. Just really, the noise pollution here is really bad. So that if you're kind of sensitive to that might wear on you. So yeah, I mean, overall, you know, I'd recommend. It's one of the biggest highlights of the world. And you know, don't be too worried. You know, this, you know, this permit thing, and I know a lot of people don't want a guide to do it. You could still go through. Like I just met a German couple, and they just did this, you know, a couple weeks ago or a month ago. And you could go through Western Sichuan, like where I do tours and stuff. Amazing things there, or even up Yunnan through Sichuan. Go into Qinghai province, which is also all Tibetan, and then up to Xinjiang, and then go into like Pakistan, for instance, to Iran or wherever you'd like to go, like going west, or you could go to India, whatever you feel like doing. Because of course, northern Pakistan has a Karakoram highway, which is amazing. You definitely check that out too. I'll make another video about that. Yeah, so don't feel too bad if you can't go to the actual, like what they call province of Tibet. Eastern Tibet goes into Sichuan, northern Yunnan, in Qinghai. And I think those areas are just as nice and less touristy in some ways. And you can still get to Pakistan and onward, or go up to Russia, whichever plan. If you are going the other way, that would be pretty tough. I know coming in through like Nepal to Tibet, I think that definitely can't. I mean, because you wouldn't be able to get the visa in advance, or even they'd stop you right at the border for sure. They wouldn't. I don't think they let any foreigners coming in that way. So that's just something to consider too. And there's no other route through India through that way into China. So you can go through Pakistan up into China. I did that before, so that way is okay. But through Nepal into Tibet, I don't think it's possible. But like I said, from Lhasa now, you could get to Kathmandu. I think that's open at least. So at least that section, you might be able to, you know, fly into Lhasa with your bike. Like let's say you did part of Sichuan and fly into Lhasa, and then do that part to Nepal, and then do India into Pakistan or whatever you'd like. So that's another recommendation. You just skip, you know, some of that area. So yeah, that's my recommendations, and I'll make some other videos about my other trips, even though they're a little outdated. They still have some decent information. So if you are interested in headed out this way, I'm based in Chengdu. I do bike tours and other stuff around here. I'll have links below. I'm also trying to finish off a book about my trip, so hopefully I'll get that done the next year or two. And so if you need any advice or anything, just ask me. And good luck, and yeah, hope you could check out this area, whether you're in the Tibetan part of Sichuan or Qinghai or the province of Tibet. It's all great, and it's something I would highly recommend. So take care and good luck. See you later.
Congratulations, guys. Finally made it. Doing pretty good now? Anything to say about your journey? It's hamburger time.
I like to play that game. It's like going like this. You motherfucker, you motherfucker. You motherfucker. Your mother's a fucking hooker. And you fucking shin sing thing. You think you know what you're fucking doing? You fuck ass bastard, you.